As I opened the program, I made mention of the fact that we had a local celebrity make that a state celebrity. No, correct that last. An international celebrity who passed away last evening, died. That is Captain Horatio Sinbad. I know him as another individual. He has a, shall we say, another name, a name with which he was born with, but very few people know that. But I have joining us this afternoon, Carl Cannon, a friend, actually a mentee, who was greatly influenced by one Captain Horatio Sinbad. We have joining us this afternoon Captain Carl Cannon. He is the commander of the Beaufort Pirate Invasion and also the commander and commanding officer of the Beaufort Pirate Invasion Incorporated, a nonprofit organization. I asked him a few moments ago, what do you do in real life? And he said this. So with that, ahoy there, Captain.
Ahoy, Lockwood. How are you doing today?
Doing well. What a life. What an experience. What an interesting combination of events. And I'm going to throw them together very quickly, and then I want to cede the airwaves to you, Captain. And that, of course, is the presence of the North Carolina Maritime Museum, which went through a long history of being ignored by the state of North Carolina. As a matter of fact, for pretty much its entire existence up until roughly 1970, it was handled by the Department of Agriculture and not the Department of Cultural Resources. And the Department of Cultural Resources, about 1970, I'm recalling from memory here, took ownership of the Maritime Museum. Of course, we now have it built there in Beaufort. And then around 1980, 90, roughly, they found these round things in the ground off Fort Macon. They were pilings, and it turned out, no, they were cannon. Cannon from a vessel called Queen Anne's Revenge. Well, prior to that, one Captain Horatio Sinbad, a privateer, had arrived in Beaufort aboard the Mika II, the Mika I. I know where that is, bottom of the Atlantic, as a matter of fact. But
he got shipwrecked.
Yep, Mika II. And so let's talk about your experience with one Captain Horatio Sinbad. And again, our guest this afternoon, Captain Carl Cannon, and we're going to give him an opportunity also to talk about what he does with the Beaufort Pirate Invasion Incorporated. But Carl, let's talk about your experience with Captain Sinbad, please.
Well, Lockwood, I met Captain Sinbad when I was about 12 years old, 12 or 13. I was standing on my daddy's dock in Town Creek in Beaufort. We had a little business called Cannon Seafood for many years. And as a young fellow, I loved to fish and sail. And I was out on the dock one day, and the bridge bell went off, and I looked over at the bridge, and what comes through the bridge but a pirate ship, or more likely a privateer ship.
Right.
And I saw this thing coming in. I got all excited, and I ran up to tell my dad there was a pirate ship in the creek. And the time I got back, he was pulling up to our dock, and Dad was laughing, and Sinbad was laughing. And, of course, they'd already planned this, I guess, for dockage. And I was already a little pirate fan because of Blackbeard, our town's history with Blackbeard and the pirate invasion that we had that Graydon Paul and the firemen started. So I was really excited, and turned out that he became not only my friend but a mentor. We worked together at several boatyards over the years. I helped him rebuild the Mecca back in the 90s. We were up working at Russell's boatyard over in Morehead City. He came back, and he got our pirate invasion going along with the Downtown Business Association. And, he kind of brought piracy back to Beaufort. Many, many people have come to Beaufort to see not only him but the Beaufort Pirate Invasion. Right. And he was, for 12 years, he was our commander for the Pirate Invasion, and he inspired me to become part of his committee when I retired, and I became one of his, closest, allies, and I learned a lot from him. He gave me the inspiration to turn my ship into a pirate ship and to start doing the things that I do now. And he was a great man. He was a great boat builder, shipwright, woodworker, and he was a great friend. But I've known him for almost 50 years, and sadly yesterday morning he passed away on his vessel right where he would have had it happen. He was 81 years old, and we will miss him.
Personally, we will miss him. I think the town, the county, the state, And I mentioned the international relationship with Captain Horatio Sinbad, recalling some of the experiences he had. And of course, he would periodically sail down to the Caribbean aboard the ship with some of his crew and Lieutenant Brown.
They actually, just a few years ago, sailed to the Dominican Republic, right by themselves across the ocean, open ocean. Amazing.
Right.
And he was a true explorer, and so was Terry. She's great.
He knew seamanship, and he taught seamanship. As a matter of fact, he would have young students on board his vessel for a period of time, as I recall.
For many years, he had a mentoring program where he mentored young people in the aspects of seamanship and navigation and shipboard life. He was very much involved with the youth at one time. He had a pirate store in Morehead City, too. Some people may remember that, the Barataria, I believe was the name of it, with his wife and one of his daughters.
Don't forget,
Molly.
He was one of the founders of the Spouter Inn.
Oh, I was getting ready to say that. I know that slipped my mind. He was one of the original owners and founders of the Spouter Inn.
Exactly.
I actually, Lockwood, have one of the tables. I have number 3 that he built in my kitchen. That's our main table, was one that I got from him a couple of years back that actually came out of the Spouter. And every time I go by there, I think of him. He's been a big part of Beaufort.
Yeah, he was an entrepreneur.
He was.
Did you?
Absolutely.
Of course, you know the story, I'm sure, about the building of Mika 1.
Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, it took the governor of Michigan. He built his craft, the Mika 1, in his backyard, and he was a draftsman with General Motors. And you would have thought he would figure this out. It was a little bigger than he originally planned. I'm trying to figure that one out.
The Mika 2 was the one he had the problem with the crane with, and they went to pick it up with the crane, and the crane wasn't big enough.
Wasn't big enough, right.
And then the crane owner got involved, and then the governor got involved, and they finally got her in the water.
Yeah.
But he actually made a film about it. I think it's called How to Build a Boat in Your Backyard.
Yep.
And or losing friends and
that's exactly right. His neighbors put together a petition to get him to move, not only the boat, but him to move.
Well, Lockwood, he was also a filmmaker.
Right.
He was fascinated with film since he was a young man. He has some of the old crank cameras, and he produced his own couple of movies. He recently, just a few years or two ago, he finally finished The Sword of Tortuga, the movie he made about his book that he wrote. Yeah, he's a highly talented fellow. I tell you, he could do anything he put his mind to.
And then, of course, he spent years seeking a letter of marque. And finally, he got, I think it was Governor Martin, if I'm not mistaken. Finally,
Governor Hunt, I believe.
Oh, was it Hunt? All right, we're going to find out.
He had 2 from the state of North Carolina. The other one could have been Martin, but I want to say it was...
May have been.
Governor Hunt. Seems like both times, but I'm not sure. The plaque is there in the ship. But he also got a national recognition from Governor Reagan. Ronald Reagan gave him a letter of marque. So that was his presidential letter of marque.
So
he's the only licensed privateer in North Carolina up to this point.
Licensed privateer in the country.
Yeah, in the country. In the world.
In the world, for all intents. So, no, I think there's something special about Captain Sinbad. Let's talk about one of the most important moments that you had with, in your opinion, of Captain Sinbad.
Well, Lockwood, it's hard to really pinpoint any one thing. I had so many experiences over so many years with Captain Sinbad. Like, say, one of the biggest highlights was meeting him first time when he sailed into Beaufort when I was just a kid. But one of the strong points that's really stood out since yesterday was I saw a picture of a little ceremony we had after Beaufort Pirate Invasion in 2018 when he handed the sword over to me and the leadership for Beaufort Pirate Invasion and officially retired. It was a hard thing for him to do, even though he'd been ready to retire for a few years. That day finally came, and after a successful event in 2018 that he let me lead the setup on and the organization and fundraising, he finally passed the sword over to me, and it was, a very beautiful moment that we had. But, to pinpoint one thing with Sinbad, it's just hard to do. He was just such a character, such a good man. He touched the hearts of many, many people and inspired me to do the same thing. That's why we've turned Beaufort Pirate Invasion. Or actually, he started it. He applied for the nonprofit status because he wanted to turn it into something that would carry on the tradition of our Spanish attack of 1747 of Beaufort and the legacy of Blackbeard, and to keep our cultural history alive, by entertaining folks and going out and do the events like we do. Just earlier this afternoon, we had 100 kids from western North Carolina who went through the storms this year. They came down and visited Beaufort today and went on the tours, the Old Homes tour, the graveyard, and then finally ended up at the historic site where they toured the historic site. And then they got to meet Blackbeard and Lieutenant Joe, and we spent an hour with these great young people. Last week we had a group of folks came down from Our State Magazine visiting Beaufort in our area, and we entertained those folks for an hour at the Beaufort Hotel. And we do events pretty much year-round. Our season's really kicking off now with the Greenville Pirate Fest this weekend. It's going to be a tough one, but Captain Sinbad, his motto was carry on, and that's one thing he taught me: get the job done and carry on and do what you got to do later. But a great man that will be missed, and we plan to memorialize him this year at every event. I'm declaring it the Year of Sinbad. We want to honor him and his life and his accomplishments, and carry that to the community, and carry that love and compassion he had for what he did, to continue that with the Beaufort Pirate Invasion Incorporated, which is, like I say, a nonprofit. We put on the Beaufort Pirate Invasion each year. We go out and we do events all over. We go all the way to Florida doing events. And we also do library readings for local libraries. We do the parades. We do the school events, teaching a little something about history, and entertaining as we go. So we're carrying on that torch in his honor.
Well, God bless you, and best to you. I know how much he meant to you, but how much he meant to all of us. That is Captain Horatio Sinbad. May he rest in peace.
And Lockwood, thank you for taking this moment for him and having us on. We really appreciate that.
He was a friend. He was definitely a very fine friend, and what a beautiful moment for all of us to remember him. Thank you very much, Carl.